40% of the world's population lives within 60 miles of a coast. It's a staggering number. Our greatest cities, our biggest ports, our most fertile lands, all clustered on the edge of the abyss. We think of tsunamis as singular events. A giant wave hits and then it's over. The rebuilding begins. But what if the wave itself isn't the weapon? What if it's just the delivery system for something far more permanent? The real danger isn't the wall of water that flattens our cities. The real danger is the poisoned earth and broken society it leaves behind. It's not about surviving the wave. It's about what happens in the silent, desperate aftermath. Today, we move beyond the impact. We will simulate in chilling detail what happens in the hours, days, and months after an asteroid tsunami strikes a continent, and reveal how the aftermath is a far greater extinction event than the impact itself. The memory of a great cleansing flood is humanity's oldest ghost story. The Epic of Gilgamesh, the story of Noah, the legends of Manu in India. Nearly every ancient culture has a myth of the world being washed clean. We dismiss them as fables, but geologists are finding evidence that they are fractured memories of real events. 2.5 million years ago, a half-mile-wide asteroid plunged into the deep ocean off the coast of Antarctica. Known as the Eltanin impact, it didn't hit land, but it unleashed a megatsunami with waves over 1,000 feet high that swept across the coasts of South America and Australia. Scientists studying the seabed have found the chaotic debris field left behind, the fingerprint of this ancient oceanic apocalypse. It's a stark reminder that our oceans have a violent history, and they are simply waiting for the right trigger to repeat it. To understand the continental devastation, you need to grasp two concepts of the aftermath. First is wave shoaling and amplification. You've seen how a small wave becomes a large breaker at the beach. Now multiply that by 1 million. As a tsunami, traveling at jet speed, hits the shallow continental shelf, its immense energy has nowhere to go but up. The wave slows down and grows monstrously tall. Think of it like a rug sliding across a floor and bunching up against a wall. The coastline is that wall, and the tsunami is the rug, transforming from a fast, low ridge of energy into a vertical cliff of destruction. Second, and far more insidious, is the Salinization Cascade. The wave that crashes ashore isn't fresh water. It's a toxic slurry of saltwater, sediment, and debris. When this water soaks the land, it doesn't just drain away. It deposits massive amounts of salt into the soil, rendering farmland sterile for generations. It contaminates every freshwater river, reservoir, and aquifer it touches. The wave may retreat in 1 hour, but the poison it leaves behind kills the land for a century. Let's set the stage. An undetected half-mile-wide asteroid strikes the mid-Atlantic ridge, halfway between North America and Europe. It's a no-man's land. The impact itself harms no one. But two waves are born. Let's follow the western wave. It takes just over 4 hours for the first signs to appear on the east coast of the United States. It isn't a rising tide, it's the opposite. A drawback event so extreme that the ocean pulls back for miles, exposing the seabed in a terrifying, unnatural silence. Then the sound arrives, a low, continuous roar that grows into a deafening thunder. On the horizon, the sky and sea merge into a single rising wall of dark water. The impact along 1,000 miles of coastline is not a splash. It is a geological event. A 200-foot wall of water moving at over 50 miles an hour doesn't just flood cities like New York, Boston, and Washington, D.C. It pulverizes them. Buildings are not inundated. They are scoured from their foundations. The force is so great it creates a new coastline, miles inland from where it used to be. But now, let's look at what happens next. On the first day, the water retreats, leaving behind a gray, dead world. A landscape coated in a thick, salty sludge, littered with the debris of millions of lives. There is no power grid. There are no communications. There are no functioning roads or bridges. Millions are dead, and tens of millions are now survivors, trapped in a toxic wasteland with no clean water. Within the first week, the Salinization Cascade begins. The salt water, having surged up rivers like the Hudson and the Delaware, has poisoned the water supply for cities hundreds of miles inland. The first wave of survivors isn't from injury, but from dehydration and cholera. Within the first month, society has fractured. The immense agricultural breadbaskets that rely on coastal ports for transport have collapsed. Just-in-time supply chains mean that cities in the country's interior, untouched by the wave, begin to starve. The United States is no longer a functioning nation. It is a continent divided between the dead coast and the desperate interior. The wave didn't just destroy a coastline, it severed the nation's circulatory system. The skeptical view here is that modern infrastructure, while damaged, would allow for a recovery. That aid from the rest of the world and unaffected parts of the country would stabilize the situation. They argue that the scenario of a total societal collapse is overly pessimistic. However, this optimistic view fails to account for the scale. A disaster in one city is a tragedy. A disaster that erases 1,000 miles of your most populated and economically vital coastline simultaneously is a civilization-level event. There would be no aid to send. Every resource, the National Guard, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, all of it, would be utterly consumed by the initial event. Furthermore, the economic shockwave would trigger an immediate global depression, crippling the ability of other nations to help. The recovery wouldn't happen because the very systems required for recovery would have ceased to exist. And if you need irrefutable proof that a massive asteroid tsunami has struck the very continent in our scenario before, you don't need to look far. It's buried right under the coast of Virginia. It's called the Chesapeake Bay Impact Crater. 35 million years ago, a 2-mile-wide asteroid slammed into the shallow ocean right there. It created a crater 50 miles wide and left behind an unmistakable geological scar that stretches for hundreds of miles. A thick buried layer of shattered jumbled rock known as the Exmoor breccia. This isn't a theory. We've drilled into it. We've mapped it with seismic imaging. It is a scientifically proven fact that the East Coast has been hit by a devastating impact before. The evidence shows it triggered a megatsunami that washed hundreds of miles inland. The ghost of our hypothetical scenario isn't a simulation. It's a geological memory, waiting to be reawakened. This leads to a quiet but persistent theory whispered among urban planners and climate scientists. You see all the talk about managed retreat from coastlines due to sea level rise. The official story is that it's a slow, climate-driven necessity. But the theory asks, what if climate change is the convenient cover story? What if governments, armed with detailed geological maps of unstable continental shelves and knowledge of past impacts like Chesapeake Bay, are aware of a much more immediate catastrophic threat? They can't announce that the coast is a cosmic shooting gallery. It would cause an immediate economic collapse. So instead, they use the slow-moving narrative of climate change to justify quietly relocating critical infrastructure, reinforcing inland systems, and discouraging coastal development. They aren't planning for a flood in 50 years. They are preparing for a wave in 5. In the end, the story of an asteroid tsunami hitting a continent is not about the destructive power of a rock from space. It's about the shocking fragility of the systems we depend on. Power, water, food, order. We assume they are permanent. An event like this reveals they are a thin veneer, easily washed away, leaving only the challenge of survival in a world that has been fundamentally broken. And that brings me to the ultimate question for you. In a world instantly thrown back to a primitive state by such an event, what do you think would be the single greatest threat to your survival? The lack of clean water, the spread of disease, or the desperate actions of other survivors? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. If this exploration of civilization-ending events has captivated you, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. And don't miss our other video that asks, could we survive a modern ice age? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.